On the final straight in Baku, the truth cut sharper than any headline. Ferrari's command was clear. Swap back. Let Leclerc through. But Lewis Hamilton saw the trap that no one else dared to admit. At 300 kilometers per hour, with Isaac Hadjar only 2 seconds behind, a lift of the throttle was not just surrendering 8th place. It was inviting 9th to be stolen too. This was not a choice between obedience and rebellion. It was a choice between survival and betrayal. Hamilton's hands stayed steady, his eyes locked on the mirrors. He slowed just enough, shifted his line, opened the door. It looked like defiance, but it was calculation. One wrong move and Ferrari would not only lose track position, they would hand humiliation to their rivals. The stopwatch knows no loyalty. The car does not care about politics. And in that heartbeat of hesitation, Hamilton exposed the fracture inside Ferrari's system. The pit wall demanded control. The world expected submission. What they got was something colder, a legend protecting himself against his own team's chaos. This was not disobedience. It was survival. The order had been given, and Hamilton did not ignore it. He lifted, he moved off the racing line, and he left the space wide open for Leclerc to come through. For a heartbeat, the track became a stage. Ferrari's command hanging in the air, waiting to be carried out. But the move never came. Leclerc hesitated, his wounded car unwilling or unable to take what was being handed to him. The moment passed, the straight ended, and Hamilton crossed the line still in front. The gap at the flag was less than half a second. Just enough to spark outrage. Just enough to light up the paddock with whispers of defiance. The cameras caught it. The commentators called it rebellion. The headlines framed it as Hamilton refusing to obey. Yet the stopwatch told a different story. He had slowed. He had given space. And still the swap never happened. The truth was there in plain sight. Ferrari issued the order. Hamilton opened the door, and Leclerc could not walk through it. In that instant, the mask slipped. What the world saw as chaos was, in fact, exposure. A glimpse of the weakness Ferrari tried to hide. That final straight was only the tip of a much bigger story. Ferrari's weekend in Baku had already been broken long before the checkered flag. Hamilton was out in the second round of qualifying, a shock exit that left the team scrambling. Leclerc never even set a proper time in the third round, crashing before he could complete a lap. 2 red cars, both scarred before Sunday had even begun, limped onto the grid carrying the weight of mistakes that could not be hidden. The strategy that followed was born out of desperation. Ferrari pushed Hamilton forward on fresher tyres, hoping he could attack the cars ahead and somehow claw back a miracle. The deal was simple on paper. If it failed, he would swap back and give the place to Leclerc. It sounded neat, it sounded organised, but once the lights went out, the plan unravelled. The track does not follow scripts, and Ferrari's script was already weak. What was meant to look like order turned into theatre, a performance that exposed how fractured and uncertain the team had become. With only 2 laps left, the order came again. Ferrari wanted the swap, Leclerc back in front, Hamilton to give up the place. But the danger was clear in the mirrors. Isaac Hadjar was closing fast, less than 2 seconds away. To lift for Leclerc was not just surrendering one position, it was opening the door for another rival to slip past both of them. What looked simple from the pit wall was in truth a no-win scenario, a poisoned order that risked turning damage control into humiliation. On the radio, engineer Riccardo Adami's voice carried the strain. His words were shaky, defensive, already planting excuses as if he knew the order made no sense. Hamilton, by contrast, said nothing. His silence was louder than any protest. Calm hands on the wheel, eyes locked forward, he chose calculation over chaos. Leclerc's car was wounded, his pride stung. And yet, even with space given to him, he could not make the move stick. In that moment, the divide was clear. Ferrari demanded submission, but Hamilton chose survival. 3 men carried the weight of that order, and each revealed something different under the pressure. Hamilton became the architect of control. He never argued, never raised his voice. He followed the command in his own way, slowing, shifting offline, giving the space, yet exposing every flaw in Ferrari's call by letting the cameras and the stopwatch tell the story. His silence was not weakness, it was calculation. Leclerc, the golden child of Ferrari, showed a different side. The hesitation, the pause at the crucial moment spoke louder than his later words. His pride was wounded not by losing a place, but by the thought that Hamilton had not bent instantly to the pit wall script. For a driver long treated as untouchable within Maranello, that sting cut deep. And then there was Adami, the voice on the radio. Instead of clarity, his words cracked with pressure. He sounded less like an engineer guiding his drivers and more like a man protecting himself. Every call seemed shaped to shield Ferrari first, drivers second. In those few laps, three psyches were exposed. Hamilton, the strategist, Leclerc, the fragile, and Adami, the fearful. Together, they revealed cracks that no result sheet could ever hide. What happened in Baku was not new. Ferrari has walked this path before, and the echoes of history are hard to ignore. Sebastian Vettel once heard the same confused half-orders, the same broken radios that turned strategy into blame games. Even the memory of Multi-21, where trust between teammates collapsed in plain sight, still lingers in the sport. Again and again, Ferrari has promised unity, but when the pressure rises, what they deliver instead is division. The difference becomes clearer when compared to Mercedes. There, Hamilton was guided for years by Bono's sharp, direct calls. Every instruction carried trust, every message carried clarity. It was a system built on belief between driver and wall. Ferrari, by contrast, drowns its drivers in vagueness. Silence comes when answers are needed most, and hesitation replaces leadership. The result is chaos disguised as strategy. This is Ferrari's culture laid bare, a cycle of dysfunction that repeats itself with every generation. The team speaks of strength, but its actions reveal an empire of ghosts, haunted by the same mistakes and unable to escape them. The evidence was written not in words, but in numbers. The replay of the data told the story more clearly than any headline. Hamilton lifted, he slowed, and he moved aside. The space was there for Leclerc to take, but the pass never came. The stopwatch, cold and unforgiving, captured every detail. It showed Hamilton obeying the order, and it showed Leclerc unable to complete it. Yet Ferrari tried to bend the truth. They called it a misjudgment, as if a single mistake could explain away the entire mess. But no spin could hide what the data made obvious. Hamilton had done his part. He managed the risk, he gave the room, and he protected the team from losing not just one place, but two. The failure was not his. It belonged to Ferrari, a pit wall exposed by its own confusion. The stopwatch never lies, and this time it revealed a hierarchy crumbling under the weight of its own decisions. Eighth place was never the real battle. What unfolded on that straight was not about points, it was about power. Ferrari wanted the world to see control, a perfect picture of order where one driver obeys and the other leads. But Hamilton's choices revealed something far more damaging. By obeying in his own way, he exposed the cracks in the system for everyone to see. Leclerc came out of it looking uncertain, his hesitation painting him as insecure rather than strong. Adami's shaky radio messages made him appear less like a guiding hand and more like a man out of his depth. And team boss Vasseur tried to cover it all with the word misjudgment, as if excuses could patch over a culture built on confusion. The real story was clear. Ferrari staged a moment of control and ended up showing the world its weakness. What was meant to look like unity, instead, looked like the opening shots of a civil war. A struggle between survival and surrender played out in front of millions. Baku was not an accident. It was a sign of a pattern that is starting to take shape. Every race seems to peel back another layer of Ferrari's confusion, showing a culture that eats itself alive. Orders turn into arguments, clarity fades into silence, and the drivers are left to carry the weight of decisions that make no sense. What happened on that straight was not just a single mistake, it was another crack in an empire already crumbling. For Hamilton, the story is shifting. He is no longer just the newcomer adapting to life inside Maranello. With every call he challenges, with every trap he survives, he is shaping the culture around him by defiance. His calm control exposes Ferrari's weakness, forcing them to face truths they would rather hide. But while Hamilton grows stronger in that role, Leclerc risks being left behind. Each hesitation, each complaint, makes him look less like the leader Ferrari once promised, and more like collateral in a storm he cannot control. The forecast is clear. Unless Ferrari changes, the fractures will only spread and the fight inside the team will become louder than any battle on track. Ferrari may call it a misjudgment, but the paddock already knows better. To those watching closely, it was not a small mistake. It was weakness laid bare. Hamilton did not betray Ferrari that night in Baku. If anything, Ferrari betrayed itself, caught between confusion and pride, unable to protect the very driver it depends on. Now the question is no longer about 8th place. It is about the truth behind the order. Was this sabotage, simple incompetence, or a masterclass in survival from Hamilton? The verdict is not written by Ferrari. It is written by those who see the bigger picture. So now it is your turn. Drop your verdict in the comments. Stand with Hamilton. Like this video, share it, and subscribe because this fight is only beginning. The next races will not just be about strategy. They will be about survival, power, and who truly leads Ferrari's future. The civil war has begun.